The highlight of my day.
I don't know why I always start off playing a minor chord. I should start off playing a major chord.
You should.
Hi.
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 My name's Steve Stein. I like to play D major.
How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, Steve. How are you, brother?
Good, I'm doing good.
Good, man. Hey, guys, thank you for joining us again on an acoustic guitar workshop session. Steve and I are really flattered every time anybody shows up. I always say, Steve, if we're going to do one of these live sessions, anybody shows up, we'll just consider it gravy. It'd be great. Otherwise, it'll just be me and you. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. If you have questions, please post them in the old chat box, in the comment box, if you want to get notified of the next acoustic workshop session. Make sure you subscribe and hit notify so you can get notified about that. If you want to learn some acoustic guitar tips and tricks and coolness, today we're actually going to do 10 beginner acoustic songs. Then stay with us. Keep watching. If you want to learn it even faster, go to GuitarZoom.com and check out Steve Stein's brand new acoustic guitar course, cleverly entitled Acoustic Guitar by Steve Stein. I always love saying that. It goes through everything you need to know. It's what we call the ultimate guide to acoustic and chords, chord progressions, scales, strumming patterns, ocean strumming technique, which we talked about in another one of the acoustic sessions. All different types of things. Everything you want to know. It's an A to Z thing course. And so if that's where you're at in your guitar journey, go check that out. It's Acoustic Guitar by Steve Stein at GuitarZoom.com. And by the way, we will be putting all of these acoustic workshops for you in a playlist on the YouTube channel. So you'll be able to check that out and watch them all in case you missed any previous sessions. Don't worry. The sky's not falling. You can just go there and watch them. They'll be there for you. Also, any future sessions, we're going to put them in the playlist for you. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Go over and click on the old playlists thing if you're on desktop and go down and you'll find it, Acoustic Guitar Workshop, or you can just Google it. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Let's do 10 beginner songs. What you say, Steve?
Sure. So what we're going to do is we're just going to start relatively easy. And again, easy is a relative term, but we're going to start with just a few chords, fairly straightforward songs, and then we're going to just keep kind of bumping it up from there. Cool. So if you're kind of new to playing songs, what I always like to do is I like to start off, like using chords that you use all the time. So we're going to be looking at the G, the C, and the D chords, okay? And it doesn't matter whether you play your G like this or three finger, whatever's comfortable for you. If you play your C this way or this way, again, whatever works for you. So right now, the goal isn't to stress about whether or not you're playing your chords the same way I am. It's just understand that however you play G, however you play C, however you play D is perfectly fine. So what we're going to do is start off with some stuff that you might have heard before. The first one's going to be Sweet Home Alabama, and that just goes from D to C to G. Okay, so when you play this, what I always tell people is think about it as stepping up. Like if you're brand new at playing these chords, don't overwhelm yourself with like all the strumming and the picking and all these things. Just learn to maybe strum once per chord and go one. Let's see, we'd go C, G. And that way, you've got time to move your fingers. You might have watched us talk about bouncing before, which is really important to be able to do this. We did that in a different video. So you could start off by just strumming once per chord, and once you get comfortable with that, maybe you strum twice per chord. So you'll notice I'm strumming D twice and C twice, which is like one measure, and then G for 4. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you try and do that and that's too hard, then just go back to strumming once. If you can do that, you might start strumming double that. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice as I keep moving forward, I keep getting closer and closer to the actual rhythm of the song. So once I get there, then I might start actually separating, which I'll show you here on this camera angle. I might start separating by plucking the 4th string of the D, which is the bass note, and then strum the C chord, and then go to my C, and do the same thing, separate that note, the 5th string there, and and then G. And it begins to sound again even more like Lynyrd Skynyrd. And then the last thing, ultimately, and this is what I do for every song when I try and teach people, is you start with minimal amounts of strumming and work your way in. And once you get to the end there, you actually start learning how to do up strums. And again, we talked about this ocean strumming like Dan had mentioned. We do that in another video. That would be in the playlist, right? Mm-hmm. So my point is that like when I teach classes, I might teach this song to a group of 20 people or 30 people, and they're not all on the same level, right? So some of them might just be going, and some of them might be going, and the overachievers would be going, and they're all playing together. So my point is that I just want you to enjoy the song. I was trying to teach people to just learn how to get from point A to point B, the beginning of a song to the end of the song. And maybe you don't play all the parts, and maybe it isn't all perfect, but at least you get to experience what it's like to play a song from beginning to end, and then you can always go back and keep refining it, making it better, and making your playing better.
Super cool. When you were playing, I thought of a couple things. You mentioned the ocean strumming. You mentioned the bouncing technique. Guys, those are, we had specific workshops on those techniques. The bouncing technique, which is bouncing around and learning how to make chord changes really, really easily. And also the ocean strumming technique, which is in another video. So you definitely want to check that out. It'll be in the playlist. Don't forget to subscribe. Another thing, you mentioned play songs. Guys, Steve has an entire membership called Play Songs. It's called playsongs.com. Just go to playsongs.com. It's an annual membership, and he goes through and teaches you how to play all different kinds of songs. And that's also available for you. So I just wanted to mention that since you mentioned if we're doing a songs thing here. And we should probably tell people who the heck we are. I totally forgot about that. I'm Dan Denley, founder of Guitar Zoom. This is my good friend, Steve Stein.
Hello.
That's who we are. We like to help people learn guitar. All right. So the first one was Sweet Home Alabama.
Yes. And the next two, actually, let me pull up my list here. I've got it on my phone. The next two are the same exact chord progression. And this is why I like to teach these, is because once you've learned how to play one song, you've learned how to play literally hundreds of songs, but we're just going with a couple of different ones today. So Werewolves of London, for instance, by Warren Zevon, is exactly the same chord progression, almost the same tempo. And you might know that like the that kind of sound. So when you're thinking about the rhythm, bum 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 ba-dum, it's very, very, very similar. So you can play Werewolves of London. If you learn how to play Sweet Home Alabama, you've learned Werewolves of London. So that would be your second song. Your third song would be All Summer Long by Kid Rock, which is both of those songs combined. He uses little elements of both of those songs in that song, which is kind of clever. So if you like one style of music more than another, you could just choose whichever song and learn how to play that. But again, same thing. For that song, you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you just do the same thing over and over and over with all three of those songs.
Crazy. I never thought about that. Exact same chords, exact same chord progression, just a little bit different rhythms.
Yeah, and even the rhythm isn't all that much different. The tempos really aren't that different. You know, it's pretty interesting. But I guess when you start learning a lot of songs, you recognize those things, and that's what makes it awesome about learning the basics, the fundamentals of like the guitar, is that it opens up doors to play so many different kinds of songs. And it all, so it looks easy, and then when you start learning, it's a lot of work. But the truth is, once you get 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 chords learned, you can play hundreds, if not thousands, of songs, which is great. So, anyway, so those are our first 3 songs. Cool. The next thing we're going to do is one of my favorite songs. Is a song called "Can't You See" by Marshall Tucker, Marshall Tucker Band, and this is the same 3 chords again, but the setup is a little bit different. So here you're going D, C, G, and then back to D. So you'll notice that the tempo is now slowed down a little bit. We stay on each chord for a full measure, where we weren't doing that before. And then we do what I've always referred to as a sandwich. It's easier for people to visualize, but you think about the song as a D sandwich because you're starting with a D chord and you're ending with a D chord. So you have to remember when you get done at the end playing that D chord and you start all over, you have to stay on the D chord again because you have to start again on the D. So we're playing a sequence of 4 measures, we call it. So we're going D, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, D, 2. And then you're at the end there, so you have to start all over. 1, 2, you have to stay on that D. So think of it as a D sandwich, if you will.
But the D chord comes at the beginning of the progression, and it ends, and then it begins it again.
Yeah, so it's like 2 slices of bread, right? So when you get done, you got to go back and you got to start all over again. So if you just keep that in mind, again, it's pretty straightforward, and you don't have to do all the fancy strumming if you're not ready for that. You literally can just go D, 2, 3, 4, and use those other 3 beats to get to the next chord. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And of course, again, it might not sound ideal. It might not be what you want. But you just have to, the most important thing is that you figure out where you are. You know, as you're learning chords and changing and strumming. Again, it all looks very easy when you watch somebody play, but if you're new to playing, there's a lot going on in your brain and in your fingers at once. So it's okay to back something off. You know, I always tell people it's okay to back the rhythm off. You know, you might have watched another video where we were talking about, I don't remember if it was that one or not, the ocean strumming, but I talk about scratching, right?
Yeah.
So you can always go back and watch that one too, and of course it's in the guitar course as well, but scratching is something that you can do separate. So when you're learning this song, right now our goal is to talk about chords and get you going. So I don't want to go back and talk for 20 minutes about strumming, but always remember you can separate the strumming out. So you can just keep it simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then add another strum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and so on. And then add another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and then you could start strumming up in between. 1 and 2 and 3. You see, you just keep building as you go. And so that's another really good one. Can't you see? Very straightforward. You just have to remember now we're dealing with the sandwich theory, right? Because we're D, C, G, and D.
Can't you see?
Yeah, I love that too.
I love that song. It's on my playlist. Oh, by the way, guys, we're talking about, don't get worried about like 1-4-5. He said 1-4-5 chord progression. Don't worry about that. You don't need to know.
Did I say 1-4-5?
Or did I?
Yeah, I don't.
I think we were talking about that beforehand.
Oh,
before we started.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that, guys. You don't need to know that stuff in order to play these songs.
Oh, gosh.
But if you want to learn it, it's in the course.
Yeah.
All the chord progressions, because once you can learn a few chord progressions, man, especially that 1-4-5, or I think it's 5-4-1 in these songs we're talking right now. Though once you get your head wrapped around that, you can start recognizing that in songs that you want to learn just by ear. You're like, oh yeah, that's the old 1-4-5 again, or that's a 1-4-6-5 or something. You know, you can pick that up really easily. But that whole chord progression thing is a completely separate discussion that we may or may not do a thing on. But anyway, it's in the course, acoustic guitar. It's at a GuitarZoom.
Yeah, definitely think of, the one thing I want you to be aware of is the fact that like G, C, and D, think of them as siblings, right? G, C, and D are used together all the time. So oftentimes if the song starts with G, you're probably going to see a C and a D. And again, it depends on the style of music, and there's all other parameters too, but it's just something to be aware of. And what we're doing right now is we're using G, C, and D. We're just using them backwards. So we're using the G, C, and D, which are siblings, right? But we're just using them in a reverse fashion. The next song, though, we're going to start with the G. So this time we're going to use G, C, and D, but we're going to add a new chord. We're going to add, the next chord we're going to add is A minor. Okay, so in order to play this next song, you need to have G of any kind, C of any kind, D of any kind, and A minor. Okay, and this is going to be Knockin' on Heaven's Door, the Bob Dylan version.
Nice.
And the Bob Dylan version is a little bit easier because it's a little bit more mellow and it just does the same thing over and over and over. Okay, so the chord progression never changes. Once you learn the chord changes, that's what it is for the whole song. So what you're going to do is you're going to go G, D, A minor, okay? And then you're going to hold that A minor for a full measure. So you're going G, 2, D, 2, A minor, 2, 3, 4. Okay? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what happens is the one that makes this a little more unique is it's actually got two parts to it. So the first part is G, D, A minor. The second part is G, D, C. Okay? So now you've got G, D, C. And again, however you like to play these chords. All right? So if I put the whole thing together, it sounds like this. G, 2, D, A minor, 2, 3, 4, G, D, C. Now if I add some strumming to it, it's going to sound a bit more like the song. So that's another song that's really fun, but again, it requires a little more of your time because you have to know another chord, and you have to think about the fact that you actually have a couple different sections.
Super cool, man.
Yeah.
Also my playlist.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan. I've got a playlist that me and my teenage son have been working out to, and it's called Classic Rock, and a lot of these songs you're teaching right now are on that playlist. So I'm like, I feel like I need to have my weights in my hand or something. Cool, dude. Where do we go from here?
Okay, so the next song, we're going to do G, C, and D again, but this time instead of adding an A minor, we're going to add an E minor. So A minor and E minor, think about if your G, C, and D were your siblings, A minor and E minor are like cousins, right?
Nice.
We're gonna use them sometimes. They're not always with us, but we're gonna use them sometimes. So now we've got E minor. So we're gonna go from G to E minor to C to D. Now this could be a whole host of different songs, but the song we're focusing on is Last Kiss by Pearl Jam. So we've got G, E minor, C, D, G, E minor, C, D. And again, the rules would follow the same way. If you can't strum all of that, you can simply strum once per chord or whatever you'd like to do. Again, that's for you to figure out, but it just does the same thing over and over and over. So this is another really good one to learn.
Super cool. See more people filtering in here, guys. I want to thank you for being here. I'm Dan Denley, founder of GuitarZoom, and this is my good friend Steve Stein. We're doing an acoustic workshop for you today. Make sure you subscribe and hit notify to get notification of these workshops that we're doing. If you missed any of the previous sessions, no worries. We're putting them all on a playlist for you right there on the old YouTube channel. So you can go to the Steve Stein YouTube channel. You can go to GuitarZoom YouTube channel, check out those playlists. If you enjoy acoustic, you want to learn acoustic, you want to beef up your playing, keep watching. We're going over 10 songs. We've already covered, I think, 5.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 5.
And we're going to do 5 more for you. If you want to learn these songs, keep watching. If you want to learn them even faster, you can go to playsongs.com and sign up for the Play Songs membership, where Steve's got hundreds of songs in there. Also, we were talking about acoustic guitar, so Steve has a new course. It's called Acoustic Guitar by Steve Stein, available at GuitarZoom.com. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay, so the next song we're going to do uses a capo at the 2nd fret. And again, we've done a session about capos as well. So now what I'm going to be doing is with that capo at the 2nd fret, I'm going to use G, C, D, and E minor again. Okay, but again, they're going to be in a little bit different order, and this is going to be Wagon Wheel. Whether or not you listen to the Darius Rucker version or whether you listen to the old Crow Medicine Show version, it doesn't really make any difference because they're both in the same key. So with this one, what we're doing is going G, D, So this song, like Knockin' on Heaven's Door, actually has 2 sections to it. When I say sections, I'm thinking of it as a group of 4, right? So I'm going G to D to E minor to C, and again, with whatever way you play your chords, that's one section. So I'm visualizing that, G, D, E minor, C. The next section that I play is G, D, C, C. So I have G, D, C, and then I hold it again like all those other songs we were talking about, right, where you just stay on that chord. So I've got G, D, E minor, C, G, D, C. So that's the next one.
Super cool, dude.
Yeah.
Gives a completely different sound with the capo.
Yeah, it makes everything sound a little bit higher, obviously. And then you'll notice, and again, I'd have to go back and listen to it because it's been a little while since I heard the song, but I think the rhythm's got a little bit of that swing, that country kind of feel to it. But I really haven't heard it in a while, so I'm not sure. But that always helps with the rhythm as well. So.
And guys, if you're interested, there is a entire acoustic workshop. I can't talk. Acoustic workshop video on using a capo in this series. So it'll be in the playlist for you if you want to learn the different way. I think we go over 3 different reasons to use a capo and how to use a capo. And anyway, it's on there for you.
Yep. Cool.
Go ahead, buddy.
All right. So the next song we've got is Zombie by the Cranberries.
Zombie.
Okay, now this one's going to use E minor, C, G, and D. But there's a little twist on the D at the end. So we have E minor, So with this one, what you're doing is you're starting off with the E minor this time, then heading to your C, then going to your G, and then going to your D. So it's a little bit different order, but this time what we're going to do is we're going to take this D chord right here, and we're going to take our thumb over the top, and we're going to press on the 2nd fret of the 6th string here. Now, it does change the sound a little bit. It's not real dramatic, and if that's really hard for you to do, you certainly do not need to add that. But it is kind of fun if you've never done it before. So I'm going E minor, and then C, and then G, and then D with my thumb. And what that does, it enables me to strum all 6 strings. Now, technically, this is called D, and then you'd see a little slash, and it would say F sharp, D slash F sharp. But again, don't let that stress you out. If you saw a D slash F sharp and you went, what the heck is that? You could just play a D chord, and you would be perfectly fine. So it sounds like this. And that would be Zombie.
Nice. Yeah, that slash thing freaks people out a lot of times. They're like, D slash F sharp. What does it mean?
Yeah.
Don't worry. You can just leave it off. Just play a D chord. Anytime you see a slash chord like that, guys.
Yeah, if you're not ready for that information, it's okay. You can just play it regular. But again, at some point, you're going to want to learn those kind of things because they are important in the way our songs sound. It adds more color. You can notice when I play that D, F sharp, it's beefier, right? Because now I have the capability of playing those thicker strings, where if I just play a D, I don't have that. It's okay if I don't do it. But eventually, you know, depending on where you are in your guitar journey, it's a nice thing to learn how to play. Yep. So that's Zombie. And then the next one we've got, oh yes, is this one. So I'm trying to kind of go all over the map here with giving some classic songs and stuff that's not quite so old and that sort of thing. So this one, what we're doing is we're playing E minor to C to G to D again. It's the same chord progression as Zombie, okay? The difference is in how you play these. You'll notice that the tempo is a little bit faster in this one, okay? But again, if you only know your beginning chords, you could very easily just play E minor like this, and C like this, and G like this, and D like this, and it would be perfectly fine. But you're going to notice I'm playing this a little bit different. What I'm doing is I'm thinking of this like my 4-finger G chord. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these fingers down here the whole time. These 2 fingers will stay here. So I'm making an E minor chord, but I'm leaving these 2 fingers here. And then I'm going to C right here. I'm playing the top of a C chord with these 2 fingers, leaving these here. Then I'm going to G. And then what I'm doing is I'm actually moving over to the D F sharp I was just telling you about, right? But I'm leaving these here. So what I'm doing is putting my middle finger on the 3rd string to make kind of the full D chord there, although this string doesn't make any sense with that. And then I'm adding the F sharp with my 1st finger up here. So again, if you look at that and go, holy crap, that makes no sense, you can just play them as normal chords. But if you've been playing for a little while, this is a really fun voicing to play your E minor like this, and then C, and then G, and then D. And then he does a real driving kind of strum. All those downs, and then every once in a while it kind of throws a little flamenco kind of. You see? But again, it's just building. It's just watching it over and over and over and going, okay, well, where am I at and what chords are comfortable for me, and then you build on top of that.
I know that's Smashing Pumpkins, but what's the name of that song?
Disarm.
Disarm.
Yep, Disarm.
I remember that song.
Yes. Back in my early days of teaching, I used to teach these songs all the time.
I bet.
Yeah, all the time.
I bet. Super cool, man. So 10 songs we covered today.
I don't think we've gotten to the last one, have we?
Oh, we haven't? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the last one is an Alice in Chains song. Now, this one technically would be tuned down what we call a half step, but I'm not tuning down my guitar, and I don't expect you to do the same thing. But if you really wanted to play along with the song, you'd need to tune your guitar down a half step. So this one uses, again, the same chords we just looked at, okay, in Disarm. This one's called Nutshell. This is off of Alice in Chains Unplugged. You can get this version that I'm playing right here. So I'm playing E minor that same way that I did in Disarm. And then I go up to G. And then what I do, though, is I go to just a regular old D. And I leave my 3rd finger there. We call that a pivot point. And again, Dan and I talked about this in another video in this playlist. So we go E minor, G, to D, and then I drop back to that C with those 2 fingers down here again. So 3 of the chords are played with these 2 fingers down here. It's just D you got to play normal. So I have... Then you start all over. Now this one is hard, and the reason I left this one last is because the chord changes are very, very fast compared to the other songs. Right here. You see, so it takes a little bit of practice to get that one.
Super cool, man. Guys, you mentioned pivot points. We've talked about pivot points are in a complete other video that we did in this acoustic session, acoustic workshop. So you might want to check that out. Also, we talked about ocean strumming, also a video that we've done in the acoustic sessions, acoustic workshops. We talked about bouncing, moving chords easily without hitting dead notes and that kind of thing. Also in the playlist. And scratching. We also mentioned that. I know we talked about scratching in the ocean strumming video that we did, but all of these guys are in the playlist for you. So you definitely want to check out the acoustic guitar workshop playlist that'll be available for you on the YouTube channel. Steve, this has been super, super fun. Guys, if you've enjoyed this, I think that you'll like Steve's new course. It's called Acoustic Guitar. It's everything you want to know, A to Z, about playing acoustic. It goes through all these things you've already talked about. Teaches you chord progressions, scales, and strumming patterns, and kind of breaking out of all that, putting it all together so that you can become a complete guitar player. It's available for you at GuitarZoom.com. Steve, what else, my friend?
Well, that's it. That's our 10 songs. That's enough for today for sure.
Super cool. Guys, thanks again. We'll put the in the description down below, we'll put the name of all these songs in case you were watching and you're like, what song was that? Or you joined late or whatever. We're going to be doing another workshop for you. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notify button, and we'll see you in the next acoustic guitar workshop session. Thank you so much for joining us, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Take care.